In a small mountain town in Colorado, a family of 3 lived in a wooden cottage in the valleys. Maggie Wagner was about 16 years old. Her father owned a barn, and her mother helped run the family dairy business. Maggie never went too far from her home. The farthest she'd ever travel was her cousin's home in the busy part of town. She was homeschooled and didn't have many friends either. Recently, Maggie hasn't been interested in the daily small chores she did to occupy herself. Maggie's backyard led out into the mountain ranges. It was a bit far, but in sight. Maggie always enjoyed the fresh air, the open space. But her parents always had a strict warning of going out too far. They always told Maggie to stay within sight, just in case of accidents. In the area Maggie lived, there were wolves and bears roaming around in the wilderness of the mountain terrains. Maggie had grown up listening to numerous folktales and legends surrounding vicious beasts and horrifying monsters that would bring ill omens and capture her for dinner. But it wasn't long before Maggie realized her parents were just trying to deter her from going out into the mountains. But Maggie wasn't a child anymore. She often went out into the mountains for hours in the mornings and in the afternoons. Not once had she encountered a wolf or a bear. But she had seen some antelope. Maggie was walking in her backyard. This morning, Maggie scattered pieces of corn out to the baby chicks. Sometimes, the small chicks followed her to the mountains. Only when she entered through the trees would they hurry back towards the chicken coop. Something strange caught her attention today. Maggie heard a noise from the woods. It wasn't anything like an animal, nor was it like the rustling of the branches or dry wood. It was something strange. It sounded like someone was calling out, but Maggie couldn't understand what the person was saying. She walked into the woods. She loved climbing up the tall trees and watching everything under. Maggie was on a tree branch when she suddenly heard a noise. She thought someone was behind her. She quickly turned around. Maggie thought she saw someone or something move. Is anyone there? Maggie was shocked when she saw a young man step out from behind the trees. He was like no other she had seen before. Maggie shook in fear. She didn't know what to say or do. Suddenly, she lost balance. The young man hurried to catch her fall. He let Maggie go. She immediately backed away. The young man looked like any ordinary person, but his skin was pale green, and he wore unusual clothing. "Who are you?" The young man spoke in a language that Maggie didn't understand. Maggie realized this was what she had heard before. "Where did you come from?" The young man looked at Maggie strange. Perhaps he understood that Maggie couldn't understand him. He motioned his hands and told her he was lost. The young man looked afraid and nervous. Maggie felt a little relieved that he didn't mean any harm. He had saved her life. She ushered the young man to follow her. Maggie turned and headed to the stream. Perhaps the young man could find the stream up or down the mountain and reach back from where he came from. He followed Maggie, and soon he caught sight of the stream. get a drink of water. Maggie watched in amazement. She had never seen a human being with skin so green. "What's your name?" He looked at Maggie confused. Maggie laughed. "Oh right, you don't understand me." Maggie pointed at herself. "Maggie." She then pointed at him and asked, "You?" The young man smiled and said, "Aspen." Maggie rubbed her cheek and asked, "Why are you green?" Aspen chuckled and pointed at Maggie and shrugged his shoulders. It seemed like he too was bewildered to see Maggie pale and white. Maggie was puzzled. Where did this young man come from? Why did he speak an unknown language, and most importantly, why was he green? "I think I should take you to my father. Perhaps he could help." Maggie took the young man through the woods to her backyard. He seemed fascinated when he saw Maggie's family. But when her father saw him, he was frightened. He immediately pulled back his daughter and got his rifle. "Dad, what are you doing? He's not here to hurt anyone." "You don't teach me what to do, young lady. You're lucky to be able to come back alive." "No, Dad, don't do this." Maggie pulled out her father's grip and ushered Aspen to run. "Maggie, you've put us in danger. Who knows what that creature was capable of? He was a person just like you and me." "Stay within your limits, Maggie. No human being is green like that. I'm bringing men here tomorrow. We'll search the mountains and find him, and if need be, we'll get rid of him. There's nothing more important than our safety." Maggie tried to explain to her father how she thought Aspen was lost. He was just looking for a way, probably to get back home. Maybe he suffered from a condition they weren't aware of. Maggie had a feeling Aspen was helpless. Maggie's father was infuriated. She knew he was just acting out of his instinct and fear, but Maggie didn't want him to take life out of ignorance. That night, Maggie took some food and sneaked out into the woods. She took a small flashlight and walked to the stream. She called out for Aspen. After a while of calling, she heard a noise behind her. "Where is Maggie?" "Colton, you have to bring her back to me. I wanted to shoot that thing the minute I saw it. This is the result of your pampering. Your daughter has become rebellious, and now look what has happened." Maggie didn't return that night. She didn't return the next day. And neither could her father and the townspeople find her. Even after ravaging every inch of the mountains. People started speaking of a green beast that lurked in the mountains. He would lure them by his innocence, only to take them as his prey, back for its family. There had been young children who had gone missing before to these greenskins. They bring nothing but evil omens and misfortune to the town. The townspeople were ready to take the things down. They prepared to be on guard. 5 years have gone by, and Mr. and Mrs. Wagner haven't found their daughter. They searched every night and every morning, walking through the mountain trails. They tried offering meat out in the woods, hoping the creature would return for it. One early morning, early at dawn, Mr. Wagner was strolling through the mountains on guard when he caught a glimpse of something green. After all these years, today, finally, he got a chance. He ran behind it, but soon lost sight of it. That's when he heard a crashing noise. He turned and saw the thing that had fallen behind one of the trees. Mr. Wagner could see its strange shoes, its green ankles. He pointed his rifle and slowly inched forward. When he got to the other side, he was thundered to see none other than his own daughter, horrifyingly green. He dropped his gun and broke out into tears. "Dear, what has happened to you?" "Dad, don't worry. I'm fine. I'm safe. And I'm happy. Let's go home right now. Your mother will cry in joy when she sees you." Mr. Wagner helped his daughter up and headed towards home. Maggie's mother was happy to see her, but she was concerned about what had happened to her. Maggie's skin was green. Maggie's clothing were made of a strange material. Maggie's beautiful golden blonde hair also turned into a greenish hue. "Mom, Dad, that night I went into the mountains to warn Aspen. I knew he didn't mean any harm, but Aspen had already found his way back home. He showed me where he came from. You're right. He's not like us, but he isn't apart from us either. He's just a person, like you and me." Aspen looked at Maggie standing with her flashlight. He told Maggie to follow him. He took hold of Maggie's hand and showed him a hollow entrance in a large tree that had been covered with vines and bushes. Aspen crawled inside. Maggie was amazed how much larger the hollow space really was on the inside. She could see a little light seeping through. Aspen took her out of another entrance. Maggie was speechless. She saw the twilight sun in the sky and nothing but dense greenery around her. Maggie had entered another dimension, another world. This was the island of Lush. Aspen took Maggie to his people. They were all startled to see Maggie's pale white skin. Maggie was a foreigner to them. Maggie stayed with the people of Lush. She wanted to discover this new world. Aspen and Maggie taught each other their languages. They learned about their worlds, about their cultures and backgrounds. Maggie soon learned about the people of Lush. Why the people were so green. They didn't eat food she was used to. Everything that grew on Lush was green. Flowers, fruits, vegetables. That's what the people ate, and no one was ever exposed to the sun. The sun never rose or set here. It was twilight year-round. Over the days, she adapted to the new lifestyle. That's when she noticed her skin changed color. Maggie often thought of her parents, but it wasn't that Maggie hadn't returned in all these years. Every time she went back, she saw how hostile the people had become. Guarding the mountains with pitchforks and torches, Maggie feared they would take her life, and the life of the people of Lush. So Maggie returned. She embraced her new home. She not only fell in love with the island of Lush, but she fell in love with the kind and gentle people who took care of her as their own, despite how different she was. But sometimes, she still sneaked into the mountains to catch a glimpse of her parents when she missed them. Mom, Dad, these people are not what you think. They have been kind and compassionate. The family reunion was interrupted with a loud banging knock on the door. The window suddenly shattered. Someone had thrown a stone. Maggie was frightened. Her father ran to check what happened. He was thundered. The townspeople were all gathered around the house with pitchforks, torches, stones, and more. They angrily barricaded the barn and yelled out,
"Give us the girl. We won't let this creature harm us. We'll get rid of them all. Down with all the green beasts."
Mr. Wagner ushered his wife and daughter in a panic. "Take Maggie inside and hide. I'll see what I can do." Mr. Wagner took a deep breath and opened the door. The town's chief stood there angered. He demanded, "Colton, we know she's here. Hand over the beast, or we'll get her ourselves."
Green beast, 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 green beast.
If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe to my channel and share this video with your friends and family.